Good evening, board members and residents. I'd like to call to order our regular board meeting for Monday, April 13th, 2026. I'd ask that everyone present please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Backens?
Here.
Mr. Brado?
Here.
Ms. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Olgiati?
Here.
Mr. Tominello?
Here.
Mr. Witt here, Mr. Burkowski?
Here. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, including approval of the regular board meeting minutes of March 23rd, 2026, and approval of the bills in the amount of $1,237,023.22. Unless there are any revisions or issues, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there support?
Support.
I've got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Olgiati to approve the consent agenda. Discussion, board members. Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board. Next is the approval of the regular agenda, board members. I'm not aware of any revisions. If there are none, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Your support.
Support.
All right. We've got a motion by Mr. Olgiati with support by Ms. Brown to approve the agenda. Discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board. Next is announcements. I do have a few announcements. I'll also add to my announcements. From time to time, issues that come before the board attract a lot of residents. This is one of them. We had to set up a couple extra chairs to make sure everybody was comfortable. If I'm guessing right, I think item D1 regarding the special assessment and the canal dredging, based on the faces I see, are the reason they're here. So that's the next item on the agenda. We will have a discussion on that when our policy is when the board makes and seconds a motion. At that time, we open up the floor for public comment. So anybody who's here who wishes to speak about that, we will give you that opportunity, assuming that we move forward, which I anticipate that we will. When we do take public comment, based on the number of people here, again, we encourage you, if you know that you want to speak, we've got a couple of chairs behind the podium. So just in the interest of respecting your time as well as ours, if someone is speaking on that agenda item and you wish to speak, just kindly take a chair behind there so that, you know, we're not standing there looking at each other, waiting who's going to stand up next, and we can get through those public comments quicker and everybody can get on to the rest of their day. And also during the process, we discuss, we open the floor for public comment. We won't interact during public comment. We'll close public comment and then the board will resume discussion.
He will answer your questions, but he won't answer the questions while you're at the podium.
Yeah, there's no back and forth. Okay, otherwise, the announcements that we do have, beside that, were the Beautification Commission is hosting their annual community cleanup this weekend, Saturday, April 18th from 9 a.m. to noon. We will be starting in the parking lot behind McDonald's on Crocker. For more information or to register, please visit the township website or call Sue Keene at 586-242-3868. Compost and yard waste pickup has officially begun for this season. Please make sure that you are following the composting guidelines, which can be found on the township website, or you can always contact the supervisor's office. Twigs and branches must be bundled and must not weigh more than 40 pounds each. Please make sure that all items are in a brown bag or a container labeled compost. Compost cannot be collected in plastic bags. Miller Park, located at 34890 Jefferson, is officially open for the season. Everyone can access the park from dawn to dusk at no charge. If you wish to rent the pavilion at the park for a private event, you can contact the supervisor's office and Also find that contact information and details on the website. And for more information on these, as well as all other township events, you can call the supervisor's office at 586-466-1445 or visit our website at harrisontownshipmi.gov. Are there any other announcements? Hearing none, we'll move forward on the agenda to item D1.
Yes, thank you, sir. Tonight we have our public hearing number 2 for the Special Assessment District for the Archer, Lakeshore, and Pardee Canals. At our March 9th meeting, we adopted resolution number 4, which set today's date as for the second public hearing. And the purpose of this public hearing is for residents to speak to the role as it's been prepared. We did send out notices directly by first-class mail, as well as publishing the notice twice in the Journal in advance of the hearing. I would ask that if anybody is interested in speaking, when you do come forward, please say your name and address correctly so it's recorded properly in the minutes, because in a public hearing, we do record names and addresses just to have that record established.
And part of that record is it does preserve future rights for the resident.
Correct.
And so if you're in the SAD and you have a concern with it, identifying yourself and recognizing that you were at this meeting could preserve certain legal rights for you in the future. Okay. Any discussion, board members? Otherwise, we'd be looking for a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Tominello to open the public hearing. Any discussion, board members? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, Mr. Witt, that requires a roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Batkins?
Yes.
Mr. Tominello?
Yes.
Mr. Brado?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Olgiati?
Yes.
Mr. Witt? Yes. Mr. Verkowski?
Yes. All right, so at this point, our public hearing regarding this special assessment district is open. If there's anyone present who wishes to speak about the special assessment, we invite you to the podium at this time.
Greg Kitchen, 38762 Pardee. Obviously, I'm opposed to this. We love our trees, we love the park, been there 28 years, and I would like to see, or at least explore the dumping of the silt to go possibly at the boat launch. It's not going to affect the grass, the trees, and so forth. Thank you.
Al Provost, 32048 Powers Street. I live directly on the end of that park. Not that, the problem that I'm seeing is the roads are going to be destroyed. I talked to a friend of mine that's in the business. You're looking at 40-yard dump trucks, gravel trains. There's going to be 500 loads minimum leaving that property, which he says that road's gone. There will not be a road. So as far as repairing the road, there's not a repair for that. That road's already, 40, 50 years old. It's not in great shape, but there's no potholes in it yet. It's not falling apart. And as far as at the same time, this turns the residential park into an industrial site, which many of us were never notified of. The people on both sides of that street should be notified and have a chance to come. If you're looking at 51%, you don't have close to that if you took everybody involved, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I talked to Adam Witt earlier today, and he said there was 9 test points taken, and that none of it came back bad for the environment, and that they could probably sell the spoils rather than paying to have it getting disposed of in a landfill. So we all know that dredging a canal that's never been dredged, running off from the Clinton River, there's no way that's clean. It's not just grass clippings and leaves. It's 70 years of debris. It's going to pollute a community park where young kids, my grandkids, play. I hope you can consider that before you do this damage.
Is there any other public comment? If If there is anyone else who plans to speak, again, we encourage you to utilize the on-deck chairs.
Well, just from looking from 2025 to now, we've gotten a gravel train that's going to go through the entire park so that they're not on the roads that much, which will wreck the park even more. We're worried about flooding if they pack those bags real close to the street and they go over the covers of the drainage. Where's that going to go? It's going to go in our houses. So we want some guarantees. We don't want no trees cut down, and we want to know if there's any other way to get rid of the silt. Thank you. Oh, my address. My name is Denise Chauvin. I'm at 38871 East Archer Drive.
Prevost Lakeshore Drive, 38051. We have had a dredging, just a point of interest, maybe 15 years ago. We lived there many years. Question is, when will the dredging start? We did not get any written info on this.
Yeah, there is no back and forth discussion.
Okay.
This is public comment. That's a question, and we'll do our best to address it, but,
Okay, one other question. I understand there should be a tax roll. And what will the interest be on the loan on the tax roll? Those are my two questions.
My name is Nicholas Maluchnik. I live at 32064 Powers Street. I want to start off by saying that myself and several others have been going around collecting signatures in opposition to dumping the spoils in the park. You guys want to dredge? Go ahead and dredge. That's fine. Maybe the canal needs it. But I don't see a reason why we're going to put it where kids play, in a public park. Okay? In under 2 months, we've collected 64 signatures that oppose putting the spoils in the park. Okay? Why don't we table this for another 30, 60, 90 days and let us gather some more signatures? I'll be more than happy to do so. Okay, you guys have 69 signatures in favor of the dredge project? Cool. I will get way more signatures than that oppose putting it in the park. Okay? This is our park, okay, a community park that members of Huron Point own, okay? Not just the people that live on that canal, the members of Huron Point should have a say in what goes on in that park. All of our kids, our grandkids, our neighbors' kids, people play there, okay? We're talking about destroying that park for a couple years, okay? This dredge project is going to take place in, what, 2 different processes? We're going to suck the canal once and fill it up, then we're going to suck it again, fill it up. Let's call that a year, all right? In the meantime, we're cutting down trees and everything like that. Once we take out all of these spoils, how long is it going to take for grass to grow and for trees to mature? You're going to cut down mature trees and put what, saplings in? How long is it going to take for that park to be a park again, where kids play? Many people that signed for the dredging that we talked to when we were gathering signatures don't even know that the spoils are going in that park. How many people were coerced into signing in favor of the dredging that don't even know the full scope of the project? It took 2 years to gather 69 yes votes in favor of the dredging, and in less than 2 months, I've gathered almost enough signatures that oppose putting it in the park. Okay, and a question that I have for the board is this already said and done? Is this already going to happen? I mean, Verkest spoke that he anticipates that this is going to pass today. Okay, I want to know, is this already said and done? Did you guys make a decision to proceed before the rest of the neighborhood even knew about this? Because a lot of them don't, okay? Are we just going to sweep this under the rug like nothing to see here? Or does Huron Point get an opportunity to voice their opinion? Not just the people directly involved in the dredging. That's what I want to know.
thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Pete Skirpin, 38862 Party. I'm for it. I think it's a safety hazard with all that silt in the canal. If a kid falls in there, he might drown. I've fallen in there, and if I didn't have something to grab onto, I couldn't get out. It sucks you down like quicksand. So as far as safety of our kids, I think it's long overdue. Property values will be affected. This is a community park. I know not everybody that lives around that park had a say, but at the same time, if it was their canal that needed to be dredged, I'd hope that everyone would help them out as well. I think we deserve to help each other out. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons to do it. It should have been done a long time ago. It's overdue. And I don't know what else to say. No one's come up with a better plan. Everyone has a different idea once it's ready to hit the floor, and then everyone wants to change it, when this should have been done a long time ago.
Thank you.
Chris Swift on 39260 East Archer. I was involved with the project since it started, really. Just a few comments I want to make is that we worked with Eagle, the DNR, Army Corps of Engineers, had the sediment tested by a third party. Everybody chipped in and got that tested. DNR passed it. There's no problems at all with that. And then also we absolutely exhausted every possible venue of where to put the spoils. For example, we tried different things like people's empty lots, Metro Beach over by the boat launch, but unfortunately they are doing repairs over there. In the S-curve, we tried a lot of different avenues before the only feasible place is in the park for the temporary dewatering of the banks. Thanks.
Please, we got a speaker at the podium.
Nicholas Malushnik, 32064 Powers Street. Chris said that this is the only option. It's not the only option, okay? There's lots of dredging that takes place where spoils are loaded onto barges. There's other options, okay? Putting it in the park is the cheap way, okay? We all know that the cheap way is not always the right way. We're asking that you guys go ahead and dredge, but do it the right way, not the cheap way. We're not going to destroy the park that many kids use, many township residents use, okay? You guys want us to dredge? Pony up. Do it the right way. There's a big boat launch right at the end of South River. Put the spoils over there. They're not doing construction over there. That parking lot looks like a third world bombed out road, okay? They're not constructing anything over there. The building over there at the sheriff's office is done. Put the spoils there, haul them out on barges. I don't care what you guys do. Don't destroy that park. Thank you.
Pete Skirpin again. It's 1 year. You know, people can be inconvenienced for a year to help their neighbors. Possibly two. Supposedly it's going to take a year. Well, the plan is for a year. So I don't, you know, it's in the plan that they're going to restore it to the way it was. So it's in there. So if it's in there, it's in there. It is. I've read it too. You want to read it? Because it's not in there.
We don't,
From what I've
please,
read, it's in there.
This, sir, this meeting gets out of hand real fast when people in the audience are yelling out. I don't want to get to the point where I have to ask you to leave. I respect your opinion, but there's a way to do it. It's through the public comment process. But if you're going to badger folks, honest, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I don't want to have to do that. I'm just saying, just be respectful to each speaker. There's folks here for it and against it. We just want to maintain a certain kind of decorum so things don't get out of hand.
You know, I've been out on this point on my entire life. My grandfather built my house originally. Kind of the rule of thumb was you never haul dirt off the point. Always dirt comes onto the point. So if it's true that these spoils are not contaminated, why wouldn't they go directly into people's backyards? Then you wouldn't even need to suck it out. You could come in there with a barge, shovel. It would cost the residents half of what they're going to pay to have it removed. And then their yards are filled up. If their yards are already full, build a berm. So in 10 years, when the water goes over their wall, they don't have to sandbag. There's an alternative.
This is a list of the chemicals. They're all heavy metals. This is from the state, from the test they did. The reason, oh,
If you hit the
3941,
microphone, folks at home.
yeah, 39, excuse me?
Can you read some of those?
Oh, geez, we got some lovely stuff that's gonna totally trash the park. The 1 year that they're talking about that is gonna damage it for minimum is 1 year before they even haul anything off. And the reason it has to be hauled off, so that everybody understands, is because it is contaminated. Like the gentleman said, he's been here long enough, and I'm in the business. If that dirt's not bad dirt, you can put it in your backyard. If it's bad dirt, the state tells you, you put it in your backyard, they're gonna put it on your deed. So that down the road, when you try to sell, your property is worth squat because you've got contaminated materials. We got over 18 arsenic, cadmium, chromium, copper, lead, mercury, nickel, zinc. You know, words that I can't even pronounce, benzene, benzoyl, fluorine. All these chemicals that are in there, this is the list that I got from the state. Plus I got the paperwork from the contractor, I got the paperwork. Adam, I gotta thank you for doing your job. At least he's being truthful on this, he's not trying to hide anything. This project is gonna totally trash that park. And the park is the people's park, not the township. You guys may cut the grass, which makes you managers, whatever. But it's a year before they even start to open those bags up, and over another year before they restore the park. And the problem I see with this is that runoff water is gonna contaminate the soil that's on the ground there. And Ken, for no matter what I read on that paperwork about that park, it says it belongs to the homeowners association of St. Clair Harbor. It does not give you the authority to cut down trees, bulldoze the place, or contaminate the soil. So on the one hand, if you're trying to claim the right that you can use it, I don't see it. And it looks to me like if you go forward with this, and Nick is right, we've collected almost 60 signatures in less than a month, really, because I didn't get involved for a month ago. And my understanding is you don't have 69 signatures. You have 69 parcels out of 130, or is it 132? So if you've only got 69 parcels, that leaves 60 parcels out of the 130, which I think would sign on to oppose this project. And then we're gonna get more people involved. You give us another 3 weeks, we'll have 2 to every one of your people that signed on for it. There'll be 2 against it. And there's a lot more. There's just too many people that you're trying to affect. There's too many ways to do this. This is not the only way. It's the cheap way, and a company that's been in business, what, 2 years? Maybe? Dean's Marine would be happy to do it, I mean, at $1.5 million or $1.3 million, whatever you guys are looking at. They dredged the Clinton River. They've dredged the park for the sheriff's in there, and what they do is they park a large barge on the lake, and you can't get a big barge in that canal because it's only 50 foot wide, so I don't know how big of a boat you're gonna get down there. But you just hopper the material from one barge, go out to the lake, empty it out, and round robin, back and forth till it's gone. And then you take it over to Harson's Island where they get rid of this material. That's where they get rid of it. Hey, that's where the state's getting rid of it. I mean. All right, well, anyway, there's a lot of other ways to do this project besides shutting that park down for a minimum of 2 years, destroying the property, and in the contractor's bid, it says that they're gonna clean the place up. It doesn't say anything about removing soil that's gonna be contaminated, because this material is heavy material. It will contaminate the soil, so you basically would have to come in, scoop out a foot, maybe 2 foot of the material. That's not in that quote. They're not gonna wanna do that, because that's costly. Then they'd have to haul all that material out, and then bring in new material. That's not in the quotes. None of this is in the quote. So you're trying to push this through without notifying people, and right now, half the people that live on the street, they're in Florida. They're just now starting to come back. We got 60 signatures, not parcels, but signatures. So please take this in mind. We would hope to avoid another township being sued for millions of dollars because they did something wrong.
One more more question. Bob Prevost, Lakeshore Drive, 38051. I'm assuming that a canal on Lakeshore is part of this project. We did not receive any paperwork, so I don't have any justification to show that it is. So that's my question. Is Lakeshore Drive part of the project, the canal adjacent to?
I'm Joyce Pisecki, 34370 Jefferson, and I realize that I'm at the wrong meeting. This is, this is for the canals, but I do have some information regarding the lakeshore. I won't go through the whole thing, but one thing that I did find out is, unless you want me to, anyway.
Well, if I might,
What?
are you speaking specifically about this subject?
I'm speaking about muck and where it came from.
Muck in this canal?
No, but muck that came
So,
into our lake.
The
And
way
I
public
just-
comment works is when we are considering a motion, we accept public comment about that
Okay.
particular item. At the end of the meeting, we
Okay.
open the floor for public comment about any subject.
All right, I'll wait.
Just out of, because
I
chances
just
are,
thought he was through. That's
sure,
all.
chances are, once this issue's done, a large percentage of these people will leave. And so that's why we only take public comment on the
Okay. I
pertinent
don't
issue.
think they will, but that's okay. But thank you.
Dave Vermer, 391160 East Archer. I'm very much in favor of it. I've seen too many canals where they're, you end up with weeds instead of a canal that's usable. All the material's been tested. I don't see where they're going to push the issue any further. Let's get it done.
Is there any other public comment?
Jeff Kovacek, 38886 Pardee Street. I've got two parcels over there, 171222103, 020, and 021. Last time we had this meeting, I had challenged the board regarding the petition. I want to talk procedurally here, how this thing is going down. I had given you the petitions that, the signatures that you had actually done, and I believe I had showed you proof that you didn't have the 51% at the time of the meeting. The meeting shouldn't have gone forward until you had 51%. You didn't have that 51%. On the fly, you guys decided you were going to take Riverdale, I believe it is, out of the, there was 3 homes there that you decided you were going to take out of the project, which then gave you your 51%, which to me that's, according to what I've read regarding these assessments and stuff like that, that should have made you go back to the original petition point of this project and having reevaluated it or redone it. I have some new information regarding that now. I have a formal protest letter that I'm going to give to the board here when I'm finished. But in addition to you not going back that time, well, I think you should probably go back this time, because if you look at, and I've got the information here, Michigan Consolidated Laws 41.723. This is regarding written objections, petitions, filings, signatures, determining record owners, determining sufficiency of petition, supplement to petition, and validity of signatures. If you drop down in there, and this is all part of Act 188 of 1954. In Section 3, 3A actually, it states that for an improvement under Sections 2.1 B, D, E, F, H, I, J, L, N, or O by the record owners of land constituting more than 50% of the total land area. What you guys did, and there's different, when I went through those letters, there's different, I guess what you would call them is types of projects that those lay out as far as what they are. In some of them, like what you had done, they take into consideration 51% of ownership to do these things, or they do footage to figure these things out. But again, it goes back to these categories of the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and all the rest of it. And it specifically lays out which ones are to be the 51% type, which ones are supposed to be the footage type. But in this one, N is what we're talking about. It says the construction, improvement, and maintenance of a lake, pond, river, stream, lagoon, or other body of water, or an improvement to the body of water. This subdivision includes but is not limited to dredging specifically. In that, like I said, it's saying that you have to have 50% of the total land area. That's not what you've given us. You've given us 51% or your footage or however you worded that in your notices. You didn't give us the petitions based on 50% of total land area. There's something to be said to that. Number one, you didn't give us that information, so right there we should be backing this thing up back to petition to go through this again. Number two is when we start talking about this park issue now, nobody's made it clear as to what authority this board has to say what happens with that park. That park is now part of this project. And if that park is owned by the St. Clair Haven Homeowners Association, whatever it is, I looked up the deed on it on your website, and that's what it states. It doesn't say Harrison Township. It says the residents of that neighborhood. If that's the case, they should have some say in, everybody in that neighborhood should have say on what happens with that park. We're talking about total land area again. That's a huge part of total land area, which is the same thing that you guys tried to pull with taking those 3 homes out of there to take footage off of your petition last time. It's essentially, we're kind of same thing here. The land that's in that park is a substantial amount of land and makes up a substantial part of this project. You gave no notification to anybody other than the people that are directly on that canal, not the people of the neighborhood. They should have all been notified too, and I think this should be tabled or stopped from moving forward. And let's go back to what some of the other folks here have mentioned as far as getting a petition out to everybody in this neighborhood, everybody that's involved with that park, because that park is part of the total land that's involved with this project. I think you guys owe it as a township to us. I mean, it seems to me we've been passing the buck here with anytime, I've got other issues in here too, and you guys, the board anyways, I believe has read through my stuff before because I've already submitted this in writing. I'm not gonna go through every single point that I have here, but there's a bunch of other ones as well. It seems to be this constant passing of the buck of, well, if the walls cave in the canal, that's on the contractor. If the erosion from the homes that don't have seawalls messes up this project, that's on the contractor. If the park gets screwed up or anything like that, that's on the contractor. Their insurance will cover that. You guys have a responsibility to your constituents and to this neighborhood to protect us from possible harmful stuff that we're going to put in this park and everything else. It's just, I think you guys got to do better due diligence in this. You're not following procedure even by Michigan law. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Greg Kitchen, 38762 Party. I understand the need for the dredging, I really do. I've been there, I've seen low waters, I've seen people not get off their hoist because of low water, so I understand that. But there should be other alternatives to putting that silt in the park. There is dredging done off of Jefferson, near Shook, and I know there's a bag there, right, in the park there. It was put on the cement, it wasn't put in the park. So, look for other alternatives. If it costs more, I'm a non-voter. I'll pay the money if the vote is there, the 51% that you need. But I really oppose to putting it in the park.
Okay. Any other public comment?
My name is Julia Maluchnik, 32064 Powers. Again, I'm not opposed to the dredging, but I have a 14-year-old son. Currently, he has like 8 friends that ride their bikes pretty much every single day to my house. I can't afford to feed these kids. It's driving me nuts. But guess what they do? They go and play football in that park every single day. Where do you want me to send 14-year-old boys to go play? They come somewhere that's safe, that they can play, that they're not getting in trouble, they're doing good things, they're outside, they're having fun. So we don't have a park anymore? Where do they go now? They're 14. They're gonna cause some trouble. They don't do that at the park. We do this, we throw all this crap in the park, now they're gonna find somewhere else to go, somebody else's problem. I don't want that. And then I have a 6-year-old. He's just starting to use that park. Yeah, many years down the road when this thing gets fixed, he'll have the opportunity to use again. My 14-year-old won't. By the time this is all fixed, he's gonna be well and off probably to college by that point. Or late in high school where he can drive and go get himself in trouble somewhere else. But for right now, he doesn't get in trouble because he has a park and all of his friends and his buddies ride their bikes from all over Harrison Township. I just started doing these signatures 2 months ago. I've gotten multiple signatures. I have parents that are outraged when I told them. They're like, how can they do this? Where do they think that that's okay? This is somebody that lives on, the Vitales. I know they live off of South River Road. There's a kid that lives off of Lance Cruz right here that rides his bike all the way to my house to play at that park. There's a kid on Venetian. There's a kid on Lakeshore. There's a kid on Huron Point. There's a kid on Circle. They all ride their bikes to that park. So just saying that it's used by just the people that live right directly there, it's not. It's used by all of the kids in the community, and not just in Huron Point. It's in the whole community of Harrison Township. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Any other public comment?
I just wanted to submit this if I could, would you guys mind taking it?
Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll be looking for a motion to,
Now, this gentleman mentioned that only the people on the canal and the SAD were notified that the dredging would go into the park. Well, I know that's not true because I know some of the people on the canal and they were not aware where the dredgings were going to go. When they signed, there was no talk to many of the people. I don't know about all of them, but I'm not sure your petition was valid from that standpoint.
I have one other question too. There's been some rumblings around in the neighborhood, and I don't know what's true and what's not, but maybe you can speak to it, and I'd ask for your comments on it. Where are you at with the permits on this project right now? Because it's my understanding that something went sideways with the permits, and that the permits weren't valid, and they're having to go back and get new permits for this. So I'd like somebody on the board to speak to that.
any other public comment? Seeing none, I'd be looking for a motion to close the floor for public comment.
I'll make that motion.
Is there support?
Support.
Got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Ms. Brown to close the public hearing. Discussion, board members. Hearing none and seeing no public comment, Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call?
Mr. Backens?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brado?
Yes.
Mr. Olgiati?
Yes.
Mr. Tominelli?
Yes.
Mr. Witt? Yes. Mr. Perkasa?
Yes. Okay, lots of comments. Some were just comments, some were questions. I tried to write down those things that I felt like I could give some feedback. Well, I recognize that there are folks here in favor of the project and against the project. And I'm not calling out any one person, but there were definitely some things that were said at the podium as fact that are simply not fact. And I'm not going to go through and say, this person's wrong, that person's wrong, but I'm not going to respond to falsehoods. People just throwing stuff out there to see if it sticks. I respect everybody's feelings on this, for and against it. It can be emotional. You can have, like one speaker talked about, their children and the ability to access that park. I respect that. That is understandable. Roads will be destroyed. We could not prevent this project from going forward based on the roads. We don't control the roads. Macomb County Department of Roads does, and they say that every road in Macomb County is subject to the same weight limits. So throughout this conversation, there were folks who spoke about things, well, hey, you're risking a lawsuit. You're going to get sued if you do this, or you're going to get sued if you do that. we get sued when we do things or make decisions based on things that aren't true. So, while I respect the fact that there are folks concerned that traffic on that road and heavy traffic could cause damage to the road, that's not a reason for us to say you can't do the project. There are laws that govern what trucks can haul and what weight limits they have. There can be a weight master that can check out those trucks, but we can't say there's heavy trucks, so therefore you can't move forward. I understand the concern. We are not empowered to prevent work from occurring, whether it's building a house, whether it's dredging a canal, whatever it is. It's not within our power. There were a couple of things said and quite a few comments, so at this phase of my life, sometimes I forget why I wrote some of the notes, but there were a number of comments made that we collected less than 51%. That's something I'm going to have to defer to the clerk to, because the clerk's office oversees that. We utilize our engineering firm to analyze that data, so I don't know, maybe you can speak to that, because there was a comment about, is it area, is it front footage, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I would defer to Rob on the legal question of the law, but in our past experience with doing these types of projects, it's a frontage basis, and when we check the signatures, we had over 50% both before and after those signatures were verified. I did spend maybe an hour with one of the residents going through some of his objections to signatures, saying these ones were false, these ones were wrong. And we went through and explained that some of those weren't counted because they were deficient in nature and they weren't part of our total. And so we did walk through there, and every one that was flagged, we were able to explain. And then we did submit it to the engineer for review for consistent with sufficient level.
Yep, and I'm going to say, not specific to any one particular comment or question that was voiced, but kind of a general response to a number of people's comments. And I'm going to refer to things like, you guys are cramming this through, or you did this just to make it work. My job would be easier if we ain't talking about this project. I don't earn any extra money doing this. This is the result of what we truly believe through the process to be a majority of people who say they want to spend their own money to improve their property. The law allows that. If I say, yeah, you got enough signatures and the law says you can do this, but I'm not going to go along with it. I'm not empowered to do that. If we don't need signatures to do a special assessment, but 20% of the people affected can stop the process. So what we say is, we don't want to start a process like this. This is it's costly. It's somewhat controversial to some people. Some people are for it, some people are against it. Let us know when you have 51% or more, and then we'll move forward, because simple majority rules in our country. But I do take a certain amount of offense to the comment saying, you guys are just trying to do this, or you guys are just trying to do that. This, if you're unhappy, and I'm not trying to encourage discourse amongst neighbors, but we're doing this because those of you who are opposed to this, your neighbors want us to do this. They're asking us to do this. They've put in sufficient time. They've gone through this process multiple times. They've worked with contractors, and they're saying, please do this for us. It is a function of township government. This isn't Harrison Township saying, hey, you guys need to dredge that canal. This is Harrison Township responding to the request of, for those of you who are opposed, your neighbor saying, please move forward. Heard a lot about samples. The samples are tested. I'll tell you the same thing I told you last time we met. I'm not in charge of sampling soils. There's smarter people than me that are certified by the state that sample this stuff. They do it before, or they do it after. There's a process for this. It's permitted. This project that's occurring is not some unicorn. This happens all the time. It happened just last year, and I think just the year before that in just one condo association in the township. We did a similar SAD to this in a neighborhood probably a dozen years ago. So there is a process for testing. There is a process for examining those soils. I understand that some people from an emotional perspective say, well, I'm worried, I'm concerned. Again, I'm not empowered to say we're not going to do it because Mrs. Smith is worried about this. What we do is we employ professionals who do that testing, and all the data that we have says this project is not a hazardous project or will cause damage to the park. Where will the drain water go? That's a good question. This isn't a green contractor. Again, we have worked with this contractor before. We didn't select the contractor. For those of you who are opposed, your neighbor selected the contractor, and they've worked with that contractor to try to figure this out. From our experience, with a project just as recent as this fall, they were pretty diligent about putting up, whether it's sandbags, hay bales, visqueen, to direct that water. I recognize there's concerns. How will that drain water be handled? And again, there's an oversight, there's a process. If there's a problem, if there's damage, if there's flooding, if there's something else, clearly we have to stop the project. We don't have any reason to believe that this is going to lead to erosion or flooding or any such thing. So again, could that happen? A lot of things could happen, but if we used that reasoning to say this could go bad or that could go bad, we wouldn't do any project. We wouldn't pave a road, we wouldn't build a house because somebody could fall off the roof. There has to be a system here, and we're trying our best to follow that system. A lot of discussion about alternative locations, and I echo the one resident's comments that every place that we could imagine was considered, because I worked with a contractor and I talked to several landowners. I talked to the chief engineer at the Huron-Clinton Metropolitan Authority, and we did explore several locations for where the material could go. Someone asked about a project start date. I don't know that I have that answer. As we go through this process, clearly we haven't even established or completed establishing the special assessment. So the project can't start until that process continues. Once we're done with our part, that's kind of dependent on that contractor and what their timing is. I do understand that there are certain times of the year that you can't do some of this work because of the spawning cycles of fish and things like that. And when we looked at this site, I know that one of the concerns was that as large as the park is, it's not large enough to handle all the material in one cycle, so the contractor is doing this in 2 cycles. We definitely looked at alternatives, but I don't know the start date. There was a question about the tax roll interest rate. A project like this is going to be bonded, so we've got $1.3 million, I think the rough target, right? As we move forward in this process, there's a number of people who will be assessed through this. Clearly, if you're on Part E, I suppose, if I'm picturing it right, you're not a part of the SAD, but you're certainly close to the park. For those people that are part of the assessment, we come up with a number, we give you an opportunity to pay that up front. If you can pay that up front, that's fine. If not, you can pay it over a period of time. We don't want to borrow more money and pay more interest than we need, so we typically see how many people want to prepay, and then we bond for that money. It's very possible that there's 2 ways that bonds are sold. This may be a public sale, and there's a process for that. But that process of bonding, borrowing money based on the tax-paying ability of the township, gets us a low interest rate, but it's really market dependent. I'm going out on a limb, it's probably right now 4%. I don't know if I'm trying to remember if Steve.
I think it's around 5%, but it's different.
We typically add a certain percentage onto that because, again, we borrow this money on behalf of Township of Harrison. Some people prepay, but maybe a year later, someone who didn't prepay puts their home up for sale, and part of that is to pay off the 14 or years or whatever the balance is. Well, now that person isn't paying the interest that we have to pay, so we typically add maybe, say, a percentage point to whatever the interest is, depending, to make sure that when we're done, we don't end up paying out more in interest than at least what we collected from the people that are doing this. I've heard multiple times, park owned by Huron Point. I'm happy to show anybody. It's public data. You can go to the Macomb County GIS website, click on the parcel, and pull up the plat. The plat is clear in its statement that specifically, that the streets and parks and canales canals and alleys as shown on said plat are hereby dedicated to the use of the public. This is one of those things, had no idea before I became involved in local government, but when land is platted, the land is either dedicated to the use of the public or the use of the lot owners. And sometimes that can be the road. So if there's a private road, for example, Elm Lane might be one, if you know, that's a private road. It was dedicated to the use of the lot owners. It's not a county road, it's not a public road, it's a private road. The roads, the canals, and the parks in this subdivision were dedicated to the use of the public. And they're lumped together. So the fact that the county maintains your road should be proof that the county perceives that the road is public. They were all dedicated the same way, that parkland included. The parkland is dedicated to the use of the public, which is why we mow it. There's parkland in Venice Shores, we don't cut it because it's not dedicated to the use of the public. Destroy the park for 2 years. I suppose that depends on what someone's opinion is of destroying the park. I recognize, as a general statement, the use of the park is a inconvenience to some people. Not dredging the canal is an inconvenience to some people. That park is the closest located large piece of land that's available for use that keeps this project within a reasonable cost per home. It will be unusable for a while. It is an inconvenience. When there's road construction, there's an inconvenience. When there's a lot of things, there's an inconvenience. But we recognize, we believe, that we've looked at other sites, and we don't know of a site that's closer, convenient, cost-effective. Someone said cheapest. You know, cheapest isn't always best. Well, it depends on who's paying. In this case, we believe that we can utilize that park, contractor can utilize that park for this dewatering and restore that park when they're done. And in a relatively short period of time, there won't be much evidence or any evidence that the park was used. But there is an inconvenience and there is a period of time. I can't deny that. There was a comment about cutting down trees to the extent that we can. I don't know that I've been a part of that discussion. I haven't been presented with a plan of.
I think that in an ideal world, the contractor would love to cut down all the trees, but that's something that we would work with them on minimizing any impact to, existing, because you're right, a sapling is not the same as an established tree.
Yeah, so, but, the way that this contractor, works in terms of the bags, there's a certain diameter of bag, and then they come in certain lengths. You can have those lengths cut into different, in other words, if there's one stretch and there's one big old tree in the middle, but I wanted to put a 300-foot bag, you can put a 140-foot bag and a 150-foot bag and have a 10-foot gap in the middle so that you don't have to cut down that tree. So we're going to do whatever we can to prevent that. Is this said and done? Yeah, there's a process we go through. For me, I can't think of a time that we've been presented with 51% of the signatures and it wasn't generally said and done. We're not doing, this isn't the board trying to do what you don't want. This is the board trying to do what the will of 51% of the people are. This is the board recognizing that the park belongs to the township or to the public, which in this case is the township. And we believe utilizing that park is the most cost-effective way to get the project done. Is it said and done? Well, anything can happen. But right now, I don't have any evidence that there's something hazardous, that there's something illegal, that we have less than a majority that have signed a petition. And unless I have those things, I can't see a reasonable environment where where this board arbitrarily says, I just don't feel like it. We don't go, hang on, hold on. This is not a back and forth. So I'm not going to get into that. Hold on, we are not getting into a back and forth. Listen, I'm doing the best I can. Like I say, job would be easier if I said, you're right, everybody leave, we're doing nothing. I'm doing the best I can to answer the questions. If we can't do that in a respectful manner, I'll clear the room. I don't want to do that. In 16 years, I have never had to do it. But please, please, just be respectful. There'll be another opportunity for public comment. If there's a comment you have, jot it down, put it in your phone, and you can come back up to the podium. We're not sweeping anything under the rug. We're following the same process that we have for any other SAD that we've ever done. Whether it's paving a road, dredging a canal, whatever it is, we follow that same process. The fact that people are here, I mean, we've done our best to mail things to who we're supposed to. The law requires us to put things in the newspaper. Some people say, well, that's sort of silly. Social media didn't exist when the laws for the state of Michigan were created. We are following the law and the same process that we have for any other SAD. We did look at alternatives. That was one of the comments. Awney Park is going to require 2 cycles, so it's not the ideal site. It's close. It's something that we have control over. But initially, the contractor said, I don't think it's big enough. Why haul the spoils away? Again, this is the process this contractor chose. I can't talk about the fact that they're full of heavy metals and then talk about dumping them in someone's backyard at the same time. I don't think they're full of heavy metals. That's what the data suggests to us. But the process that the contractor has decided on is to dry it out and haul it away. Someone mentioned that it'll take a year to cut open the bags. I disagree with that. I think I want to say the dewatering process is 30, maybe 60 days. Again, park belongs to Huron Point. Again, it does not. We recognize that the majority of the users of that park are the residents of the subdivision that you're in, and we understand that. If you're frustrated that the park is not going to be used for a time for your children, recognize that we're doing, that inconvenience is to accommodate a need that we believe, a fairly significant need that your neighbors have to be able to make their canal navigable. Is the canal on Lake Shore a part of the project? Well, Lake Shore is a long road. So this particular part of the project basically runs from the Archer Bridge to the canal that runs out between, I guess it's Riverdale. So there are, for example, if you live on Lake Shore from South River to the first bridge and you're on the lake side, clearly you're not a part of this project. If you live on that stretch and you're on the canal side, you're a part of the project. And inversely, across the canal from you, folks on East Archer are on this canal, they're a part of that project. So I know the one individual asked. So everybody on Lake Shore isn't a part of the project. The noticing, the signature collecting, that this is specific to a very specific district of people that are going to participate or pay. We did take out 3 homes. My understanding, if we're sitting here talking about it, we're already at 51%. But we didn't take out those 3 homes to try to get under 51%. We took out those 3 homes because we didn't feel like it was a fair assessment to them. And it was similar to the same decision we made a couple of years ago when the same subject came up. Trying to push this through. Again, some folks here are happy to see this project move forward. Some are opposed to it. I'm stuck in the middle. As soon as I get 51%, I feel like we should move the project forward. Someone mentioned we should petition everyone. I don't think it's fair for me to sign a petition that says you should spend 10 grand and I'm not spending 10 grand. You signed a petition, if you're paying a part of it, that's what the law says. It's not a popularity contest. Someone had asked, how come the bags at Waterfront Park were placed on the asphalt and not on the green surface? Simply stated, the park, in that case, that being a pretty widely used public park, we had said we'd asked if they could wait to do that project until after Labor Day when we know the volume of use goes down. But the park remained open while that dredging project proceeded. We specifically didn't want to go to the opposite side, kind of more of the north side of the park, because in essence, we have the contractor on one side of the park and his spoils on the other side, and the only way for any public member of the public to access the park is to go across those assets. We specifically tried to limit that. to the one side along the fence line with the neighboring property so that there could be a separation and a minimal likelihood of any liability or somebody tripping over something or anything like that. And then permits, I don't know that I'm prepared to, that was the
Yeah, I
last
mean,
comment.
everything's been resubmitted to Army Corps and
Eagle.
Eagle, and they have already revised the permits.
So there is no snafu.
My understanding, we're, at this point, good to go. They were just updating their information on their website.
All right.
And again, the test results from sampling were submitted as part of that permitting process. So again, the folks at Eagle are the ones that review those for compliance with the law.
So I don't know if there's any other board comment.
I guess, heard a lot of people that were in opposition of this. Seems like, test results and chemicals and stuff like that was a primary concern. So, yeah, please, okay? What is the plan for the testing? Is the first load of spoils coming out being tested? And if something's found at that point? I know that testing was done and you have those test results, but I'm also hearing that that's a lot of it, and that's a park. I too have kids and grandkids, and I myself want to make sure if they are in that area, that they're protected. So I guess I should have done more homework on that myself, but what is the testing plan once the project moves forward?
They will meet all Eagle and Army Corps requirements as set up by state and federal law.
And who's responsible for monitoring that?
So I'll answer that question this way. If you were building a home and you had to get a soil erosion permit, you'd go to the county Public Works office, and they're responsible for inspecting and enforcing that permit. If you were building a home and you needed a building permit, you'd go to Harrison Township and you'd get a permit for that. Harrison Township is not permitting this project, so we are not the party responsible, for lack of a better word, to answer the question that you're asking. That's a question that needs to be directed to the people that issue the permits for that scope of work. I'm not prepared to tell you it's sampled 3 times a week and it's sampled in this manner. That's between the contractor and the permit issuer.
Okay.
Okay. I think it's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, too.
Yeah, but let's just say that state standard is we sample at this rate. I don't have the ability to go to the state and say, no, you have to sample at this rate.
Right, okay.
They oversee that.
And the other thing I'd like to just echo, what you had mentioned, Mr. Supervisor, is I know that my time on this board, we've went through quite a few SADs, and there's always fors and against. And representing the will of the majority of the people is what we're tasked to do. At least that's what I feel. So if, when I asked Mr. Witt on March 9th, do we have 51% confirmed signatures? His reply was yes. So that's why I voted to move it forward. I know there's questions about all the processes and all that stuff, but whether we all agree on this or not, but Mr. Witt is a very highly regarded clerk in the state of Michigan. So I rely heavily on his feedback when he tells me we've done our homework, this is where we're at. I trust what he's telling me. So that's all I got. Thank you.
I have a question. And it's mostly just with the process of the SAD. This is my first SAD on the board, so I'm learning. There was a number mentioned, 20% in opposition to like halt.
Yep.
Can you explain that a little more?
Yeah.
And then I know something else was handed to us today, and so I don't know
Yeah.
exactly where we are at with that, just kind of.
Yep. So the law, so this process of a special assessment district, establishing a special assessment district, is not a local ordinance, it's a state law, so this is not unique to Harrison Township. We are, as an example, Shoreline is in pretty rough shape. The county came out with a new grant program where they'll pay 75% of the cost to put a skin on the road. It's not a permanent fix, but it's a lot cheaper than a complete rebuild. I'm gonna tell you, the number isn't exact, but it's about $900 a home is what it takes to do this skin. So we had a meeting with the residents, even before we haven't even begun that special assessment yet. We had a meeting with the residents saying, this is the program, this is how it works, this is what they offer. And we said, for $900 a home, we don't think we need you to circulate petitions. But beware, if 20% of the people on your home are opposed to it, they can stop it. So what is that? We don't have to have signatures from residents to do a special assessment. Let's just say hypothetically on this project that we knew that everybody wanted this project to move forward. And it was clear and everybody's excited for it. We could just start the special assessment. There's still a public noticing process and everything that happens, but we don't have to have petitions. If through that, 20% of the people affected, depending on how you calculate this, whatever it is, if 20% said, we sign a petition opposing this SAD, the process stops. The only way the process can begin again is if 51% sign a petition in favor of the project. So occasionally, we have special assessments where they're so universally desired and little or no opposition, we could just move forward with the SAD. This was one where we recognize that it's a significant cost, it has a significant impact on the neighborhood, so we say, before we're gonna move forward with a project that's $1.3 million, we need that 51% up front. That basically precludes the 20% opposition. But the 20% is only if we move forward with no signature.
So that 20, we have 51% or more right now. The 20% then,
The 20% is only the threshold to stop an SAD
Okay.
when no signatures have been collected. So what we're saying is instead of us starting the process, making the people who are opposed to it scramble to get 20%, and stopping the process, and then making the people who are in favor of it get 51%, we just say right up front, we're not moving forward with this project. It is more likely to be controversial. It may not reach the 51% threshold. So the only way we move forward is if you bring us 51%, and we can verify that a minimum of 51%, a simple majority, are in favor of it. And I guess for the majority of folks here, the most recent example that I can think of is when a number of the folks in your neighborhood wanted to repave the roads. And we were signed up to apply for a grant for 50% of the cost, and in the end, 51% of the people didn't sign that petition, and we're not working with the county to repave your road. So in essence, what we're saying is to avoid the battle, bring us the 51%, and then we can start talking about moving forward with the project when it's a controversial one. Good. Okay.
So from what I'm hearing from public comments tonight, it's not as much about the dredging of the canal, it's about the spoils and where to dry the spoils. I want to make sure that we have exhausted every option that we possibly can to find us the best possible space for drying of those spoils. Have we totally closed the door on, I've heard comments about barges. I'm not an expert on this by any means. I'm simply asking a question. I just want to make sure before going forward, we have all that information in terms of what we can do with those spoils, where we can dry them, what's the safest spot for the park, and the safest spot for the residents and the children that live in that area.
Yep. So for a mechanical dredging project, these bags are not an option, right? So when someone says, Dean Marine went to the mouth of the Clinton River, they scooped it up, hauled it down the river on a barge and offloaded it. That's because that's the only way that project could be done. That project was bid as a mechanical dredging project. And the permitting is different for a project like that. This particular project is removal of sediment back to what they believe the original hard bottom of the canal is. And so that process that process utilizes a much, much greater volume of material and the dewatering of that. So anything's possible. You could say, I'm gonna buy 20 barges and tie them all together in the middle of Lake St. Clair and pump this material there. Anything can occur. It's simply typically this type of dredging is not done with barges. It's done with dewatering on land. So you're right. I agree with you. The majority of the objections from the people that we heard from today are opposed to the use of the park and the potential inconvenience that's associated with it. I am comfortable in saying we have exhausted every reasonable opportunity for a place to place those bags, because I was in conversations with folks on the public side of things to see what options we have. Any other board comment? If there is no further board comment, I believe next item on the agenda is from the fire department, item F1.
And just before we move on, we will be discussing the item at a future meeting, just as we get through to the bond sale.
Okay. Okay. All right. So this item E1, Chief, is regarding the purchase of the sonar system. I can read the background, if you have it. Do you have it, or would you like me to read it?
I can go ahead and I can speak to it.
Okay.
So what we're talking about purchasing is an Aqua Eye Pro, and it uses a sonar system. This is a handheld, fast-acting, portable unit that can detect bodies specifically. That's what it's intuitive, can detect bodies specifically so that we can go ahead and have a rapid intervention to be able to save a drowning victim. As you all know, last year, 2025, we had 4 drowning victims, and had we had a unit like this, maybe we could have made a difference in some of those victims. And so this would be the first one that would be on Lake St. Clair, this Aqua Eye Pro in particular, and we did some testing last summer, 2025, and into the fall regarding this exact unit, and we had huge success. So we have water dummies that we placed in the water, unknown locations, and within seconds, less than minutes, we were able to identify where the victims were. So did a lot of testing, and we budgeted for this item to be able to make this purchase before the water season begins. So it's really specific to our beaches, our canals, and our rivers, that we have here in Harrison Township. So we're asking for your support to be able to purchase this piece of equipment for our water rescue at Harrison Township Fire Department.
Okay, and this is it fair to say this is relatively new technology? Maybe not the technology, but the application is relatively.
So the technology is old, but the intuitive nature and fast-acting piece of the sonar is very new.
Okay.
So, sonar typically, like the sheriff department utilizes sonar, it takes a while to set that up. And this is handheld, it's fast, it's submersible. We could go to Metro Park, we could go into the water and quickly identify a body, because this picks up specifically bodies. It's really, they call it intuitive, but it's AI related.
Right, yep. I got you. Okay, good. All right, any discussion, or is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the purchase of one Aqua Eye Fast sonar system at a cost of $12,995.
Support.
Right, a motion by Mr. Tominello, with support by Mr. Brado. Discussion, board members? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, next is item F2 regarding F-150 pickups.
Correct. So we're looking to, we utilize, as you all know, we utilize Enterprise, and we're in their lease program. We we leased these 2 F-150s, mine and the fire marshal's truck, back in 2021. They identify when it's worth the most money to turn back in, and we received these again in August of 21 and September of 21, and we met with Enterprise, and they suggested that we trade in these vehicles And also our fire inspector vehicle, that's a 2017 Ford Explorer. We've made a decision to hold on to that for an additional year, and so that we get 10 full years out of it. And so the F-150s are purchased in particular because of their resale value. And so they hold their value a little bit better. And so that's why we are turning them in now, and we'll be doing another lease. That's our request.
Any discussion, questions, or is there a motion?
I'll make the motion
Okay.
to purchase 2 F-150 pickups for the fire department.
Is there support? Support. Got a motion by Ms. Brown with support by Mr. Olgiati. And we meet with the enterprise representatives on a regular basis, and they kind of give us a range. I think he kind of talked about these two last year when we talked. But based on the mileage, we thought we'd go another year. But again, this is kind of in conjunction with the schedule that we've been doing, which keeps safer, newer vehicles, and also with the discount we get up front when we sell them, Enterprise gets the maximum amount. So
I'm always impressed with the way Enterprise handles their fleet management, because I'm surprised at some of the numbers I see come back. I mean, it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah,
Go through them.
you figure, I don't know how many millions they manage, but we're taking advantage of that knowledge in the process, so.
In addition to the lights that both of these vehicles are outfitted with, we purchased lights and had them installed so that we can reinstall them at a very low rate, and then also use the bed covers as well.
Yeah, so
Same.
so that the resale value to the private market, or, is the highest. Instead of, in other words, the old days, you drill a hole in the roof and put a light on top. Nowadays, you have more modular systems that do less damage to the vehicle, so that there's a greater resale value. Okay, any other comments, discussions? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board.
Thanks for your support.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. All right, next on the agenda, item J1 from the clerk's office.
Yes, so this will sort of sound familiar to the board, but the township received an application from Metro Fiber under the Metro Act for installation of fiber, providing internet access in the township. Metro Fiber is a multi-state fiber provider that delivers it throughout different communities, both to commercial and residential and governmental agencies. The supervisor and myself met with them to discuss the installation as well as their timeline for the work. Most of their installation would be underground, just like the previous vendor that we heard an application from, except for in areas where it requires an aerial installation due to any significant issues. They've already received Metro Act approval from several of our neighboring communities and are looking to begin with Harrison Township as soon as possible, based on when they receive permissions and permits first. Again, the Metro Act is a standardized process for telecommunication companies to receive their permits to work within the public right-of-way. This is something that we just dealt with Easy Fiber several months ago. Some of the names sound very familiar. And so they've submitted their application, they submitted the required payment. So we would just be looking to approve I would recommend that we approve the Metro Fiber, Metro Act permit as proposed.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
All right, got a motion by Mr. Tominello, support by Mr. Brado. Discussion.
Well, this was like 110 pages, so the most important thing to me was the township attorney has reviewed the attached application, and therefore are recommending the board approve the application as presented. So,
Yeah, and
thanks, Rob.
And the Metro Act, the nice thing about the Metro Act is it's very standardized, like they have to do it this way. If they don't, the state will kick it right back to them and they won't move anywhere, so.
It's a lot.
So it's an alternative. It's basically underground fiber. It would be an alternative to high-speed internet.
Yeah, sure.
And with the previous applicant as well as this applicant, sometimes they don't play in the same space. That's their decision. They just ask for a permit for the whole township, but that may or may not result in that complete coverage. So that's up to them. Okay, any other discussion, just questions? All right, I don't hear any, and I don't see any public comment, so all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, next is item J2. Mr. Witt?
Yes, the next item on the agenda is improvements to Trombley Park. So as the board may remember, when we went through the approval process for the Victoria Park subdivision development, one of the agreements there was that the developer would provide $50,000 for improvement of recreational facilities within the township. Recently, we've been approached by Clinton Valley Little League. That's the organization that provides community-based baseball for Harrison Township, and they're looking to make improvements to Trombley Park. Their proposed scope of work is replacing of the existing dugouts at both fields, resulting in new roof dugouts. So they're taking everything out there, putting in new concrete underneath, new fencing, new roof, because, I mean, when my kids play there, a hot summer day, parents were tying tarps up over the fence to try and keep the kids in the shade and that kind of stuff, so this would improve those greatly. Cost of the project is $25,500 per field, or $51,000 for both. They had approached the township just to sort of say like, hey, is it okay if we do this? Which obviously, them doing the work benefits the township, because if they stop providing baseball, those dugouts don't go with them, right? So that's part of the, ongoing improvement to that park. So I felt like this, would be a good match for the funds that we'll be receiving from the developer. So I'm requesting that the board authorize $25,000 match for the work.
And that would come from the
Yep.
money that we
So-
were given.
Yep, so maybe a little discussion about that. I did have a discussion with the developer in terms of when that payment might occur, and he said he was going to check with the attorney. I mean, it's a signed part of the
Yeah.
PUD. Short of this fella going bankrupt, right?
Right,
And later
right.
going, I don't see that happening. We haven't received that $50,000 payment at this point.
But-
It's been committed.
Okay.
I might argue that even if we weren't getting that $50,000, I still think that this $25,000 participation is a pretty good faith way to try to see the ball diamonds improved and continued to be used. But our intention would be that when we get that payment, that would go toward that.
Okay.
And just for whatever it's worth, certainly one of the concerns at the time was the soccer program and relocating a soccer field. We did get some verbal commitments on other folks, and there's actually quite a few grants available that are specifically for outdoor youth sports. But unfortunately, it appears that the AYSO program has kind of dried up. No one's taken it over. I'm not aware of any active program that would be using those fields if they were still available. If that comes up in the future, we can certainly take a look at that. I think this cost is probably greater than the cost to establish a soccer field.
Yeah, for sure. So are you looking for a motion?
Yes.
I'll make the motion to approve $25,000 match for the improvements at Trombley Park in partnership with the Clinton Valley Little League.
Yes. It's Trombley, not Tucker.
Oh, yeah, cut and paste.
I've already corrected
Yeah.
that.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Good catch. All right, is there support?
Support.
Got a motion by Mr. Brado, a support by Mr. Olgiati. We had some discussion. Is there further discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. All right, next on the agenda is a summer shuttle bus driver. Harrison Township runs a summer shuttle program starting the first weekend of May, and the program runs until the last weekend of September. In order to keep the program running smoothly, we need to bring additional drivers on for the summer program. We have interviewed Sherry Talent. She is a current bus driver for Lance Cruz. She's been a bus driver for over 15 years. If approved, based on her licensing, she would be approved at the $19.23 per hour rate. So the recommendation is to approve the hiring of Sherry Talent at the $19.23 rate as a summer shuttle bus driver pending a drug screening.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
A motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Tominello. Discussion.
Is this an additional driver, or do we lose somebody?
We tend to have kind of like a pool of them, and they're typically Lance Cruz, during the summer months. So I can't tell you exactly. I just, when Jess says, hey, we could use an extra driver, it's either someone dropped out, maybe someone, says, hey, I can't work as many hours. Sometimes they just like to have a backup, so.
think the drivers we have are really, really good. I talk to Bob all the time, he loves it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like saved him almost, it's just kind of giving him a purpose, something to do. It's
Oh, yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, it's a win-win. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, is there public comment there or no? I can't see, so, no. I assume there's no public comment. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next, item K2, regarding our part-time trades inspectors. Board members, we created a subcommittee at our March 9th, 2026 board meeting. The subcommittee was asked to investigate the pay rate for part-time inspectors and report back to the board. The building official contacted numerous other municipalities, and we learned that there are various ways that these inspectors are compensated. We have historically kept a regular, consistent weekly schedule for part-time trades inspectors in order to be able to schedule inspections accurately. This requires paying by the hour. The subcommittee determined that $41 per hour is a competitive rate which will allow us to recruit and retain inspectors. I'll pause here for a second. Some municipalities do a by the inspection. There's various ways in which they pay part-time inspectors. What we see is that sometimes some of the larger municipalities may have a full-time person and a part-time person that they utilize when they need them. Because we don't have any full-time plumbing, mechanical, or electrical inspectors, we try to set them up on a regular schedule, from 8 to noon on this date, or from, 12:30 to 4:30 on this date, so that the folks in the office can schedule those inspections. So we kind of have a regular schedule. We've identified some skilled inspectors for this work. The current rate we're paying is $37.50 an hour. Inspectors work an average of 8 hours per week, so across 23 inspectors, it's about 24 hours. So we're looking at an additional cost per week of about $84 plus payroll tax. So not a significant impact to the budget, even though going from $37.50 to $41 seems like an increase. So I'm recommending that we increase the hourly rate for the part-time trades inspectors to $41 per hour, effective April 14, 2026. And we had a couple folks on that.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I don't know if you have an opinion, you make a motion. For support?
Support the motion.
Okay. And again, this is just driven by, there's less and less of these inspectors available, and so.
Even at that rate, when we had the subcommittee meeting, we realized that that's a pretty good value compared to what other municipalities pay.
Yeah.
I mean, when you take into consideration, if you're going to use a company that just is like a secondary hiring company, it's going to be a lot more expensive.
Right, right. Yeah, if we were to hire a company to provide inspectors, this is what that company is paying their inspectors, so we would be paying more than that.
Right.
To hire a third-party company. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next is item A3 regarding 3 roads. I think I just mentioned this. We applied successfully for 3 grants to repave 3 roads: Shoreline, Mallist, and Pontchartrain. We have been working with the homeowners on these 3 roads to establish special assessment districts to repave the roads when this new option became available. Macomb County Department of Roads has a new subdivision preservation program that involves making minor repairs to the existing asphalt road and adding a new skin of asphalt. It is not a complete rebuild, but it is expected to get at least 10 years of a good road, and the cost share is 25% or less than $1,000 per property. We have held informal meetings with the residents of these streets, and the idea was well received. Attached is a cost share agreement from Macomb County Department of Roads that must be executed along with a required payment before the projects can proceed. I recommend that we execute the subdivision preservation program cost share agreement for 2026 for Shoreline, Mallist, and Pontchartrain.
116,132.
Thank you. So they actually had an error. I think I'd emailed the board. They've measured the wrong section of Shoreline, and so the number was
116,132.
116,132. And that'll ultimately be recouped through either direct payments or special assessments.
Does this fall under the same rules as a special assessment district? Do you have to get the 51% for that?
Well, this would be the example that I had given to Ms. Brown earlier, where we met with, we sent a letter to the people who were affected and said, come on in, we're gonna explain to you what this looks like. And since it's a new offer, it's a new program, we've never done it, but we felt like, $1,000 or less per home is pretty reasonable. So instead of asking everyone to collect signatures, we're telling you up front, we're moving forward. If you want to oppose it, you can do that.
That's 20%.
And we didn't have, I don't think we had any person speak in opposition to the project at either meeting.
Yeah, I've done enough of those, informal meetings where you really get two types of people that are there. The people that are 100% in favor of it and 100% against it. So, and we didn't hear from anybody that was like, oh no. Everyone on those roads could agree, the roads needed doing. Shoreline, maybe 4 years ago,
Well, at least.
had sufficient signatures, it might be longer than that, it might have been right before COVID.
Yeah.
Had sufficient signatures to do the higher scope of work for repaving their road. But it was a weird time where all of a sudden oil prices spiked and the bids came in way out of whack. So they weren't able to move forward and never were able to get that ball moving again. But with this program, it's something, affordable and reasonable for them.
Are you doing Pontchartrain west of?
So
West or east?
the
East of
lakeside has already
Jefferson?
been done.
Oh, it is,
Yeah,
okay.
That was the first.
That was one of the first ones. we
Okay.
did.
Yeah, I think. So,
I didn't go down the
subdivision.
lakeside, but I went down the other side.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
Yeah, from Acacia to Jefferson.
Right, okay.
And I should say that, so I'll use Shoreline as an example. Shoreline is kind of one of those unique roads. It's a local road by definition, but you could live in that general neighborhood and drive on Shoreline even though you don't live on Shoreline. It is kind of a bit of a collector road. So we've tried multiple approaches with the county to say, can you treat this different? Can you, because after that first price, the next prices we got after that were so high that the neighbors weren't interested in doing that. But the point is that we've had multiple conversations with our contacts at Department of Roads, and they specifically recommended this project is great for Shoreline. So they're kind of, again, this is one of those scenarios where, some of the folks that were involved say, wow, is this really, are they gonna do this, are they gonna do that? Look, these guys, this is the chief highway engineer, he's in charge of the road, he told me this is the best way to do this at a low cost, so we think it's worthwhile to move forward.
Perfect. And I just want to add, part of the reason this program exists is because, Mr. Verkest and other township supervisors went to them and said, we need an in-between option that didn't exist before.
Not everybody can spend 14 grand to redo the road.
And this is going to be internally funded as we spoke. We have to determine admin fees, interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that'll all fall as part of the
Okay.
special
That'll be a
assessment
part of the
process.
SAD. What the county is basically saying to us, listen, boom, here's the agreement.
Yep.
You gotta sign it and give us money, or you're not gonna do it. So, right? So is there a motion to execute the
I'll
program?
make that motion.
Okay,
Support.
motion with support. We had some discussion. Is there further discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board. Next on the agenda, item K4, regarding the fire marshal. Board members, we created the fire inspector position in the 2020 IAFF contract. We've made further revisions since then in a most recent contract, as well as some agreements. The original working hours and vacation schedule was developed and used for several years. It became clear that the fire marshal works more closely with the general employee, especially on the building side, than originally anticipated. So in essence, we're proposing in the tentative agreement to change the hours for the fire marshal from 7 to 3:30 to 8 to 4:30, and to revise the holiday schedule to match the supervisory and general employees, as opposed, firefighters technically don't really have a vacation schedule, they have vacation days, but since, on any given day, if your turn to work is Christmas, you're working Christmas. They get holiday pay, but they don't actually have like a holiday schedule per se. So this would put the fire marshal's holiday schedule in line with the people that he works with and supports on the general side of the township. So I recommend that we approve the TA with IAFF 1737 for the fire marshal.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Brown, with support by Mr. Witt. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, thank you, board, and for the residents that stuck around, we're at item L. This is the public comment section of our agenda. You can make any public comment you wish about any subject that you'd like. We ask that you try to limit those comments to 5 minutes in length.
Julia Maluchnik at 32064 Powers. This is again about the SAD. The question that I have is I have 2 signatures on the petition that I handed in today at like 3 o'clock. 2 of those signatures are of people that did sign in favor of the dredging. This is just 2 people that I ran into today. Well, one of them is my neighbor that I ran into yesterday. I haven't got to talk to him. Well, actually, it was the 9th, sorry. Andre Deonte. He signed because the first time they went around with a petition, it was explained that everything was being put into lots and that this was what the plan was. He said the second time that he was brought this petition to sign for the dredging, he wants the dredging. He was never informed anything further. When I told him that it was going to be put in the park, that's when he's like, I would have never signed. He couldn't be here tonight. He wished he could have. He's like, I wish I could be there. He's like, I can't be there. He's like, I would ask him to take my signature off. Obviously, you guys can't take that. It's my word versus, everybody else. But that was something that was stated to me. I ran into a gentleman today when I was on Lake Shore, and I was just stopping at residents' houses that did not sign, just letting them know, hey, when you were talked to about signing and not signing, I see you didn't sign, but did you know this was part of it? Every single person that I ran into today, there was only 9 people that answered their door because it was the middle of the day. They all told me they had no idea that the park was being used. That's why they signed, because they were like, we're not for it or against it. We just wanted to stay out of it. They're like, but we don't agree with the park being used. One gentleman, I wasn't going to stop at his house, but he was in between 2 addresses that I stopped at. I actually bought a golf cart off of him a couple years back, and he's like, hey, what you doing? So I was like, oh, well, you're not on my list of somebody to talk to. He's like, well, I did sign, and explained about the dredging, and he said, I did sign for that. He's like, I get why it needs to be dredged. There's people that want it dredged. And I was like, yep, I understand too. I just have a problem with where it's being placed. And he's like, well, it's just going in the lots. He's like, your lot's not going to be involved. And I was like, no, it's not. It's being used. They're going to use the community park. He immediately signed. He couldn't be here tonight either. But he also was like, I wouldn't have signed if I would have known what I know from you. So you guys say you have 51%. I understand that. But was everybody actually informed of where it was being placed? Because I'm getting other people saying that they were not completely informed. How is that fair? One other thing, and I'll try to make it quick, so you have 5 minutes. I did an addition back in 2020. When I did my addition, all people within so many feet, I don't know all the mumbo jumbo, I don't know exactly what it was, but so many people had to be informed of my addition because it was going to be not quite within whatever standards. I think it was so many, do you know how many feet? 600 feet. 600 feet. Everybody had to be informed that this project that I was trying to do had to be informed because it was going to potentially affect them or whatever. That's where I'm confused that why were we not included? You say it is Harrison Township's park, that's fine, but then other people should have the option that live somewhere around there to have a voice heard for this. I get that it might cost more money to do something else, but if you're not informing everybody that's directly involved, no, it's not cost affecting me, but it is affecting me. It is directly in front of my house. It is directly in front of multiple other people's houses that signed on this that are not happy about it. How is that okay? 51%? I don't know if that's so true if everybody knows all the information. I don't think everybody was well informed. I think it needs to come back and be recounted. I think that you need to give time for us to go and inform everybody everything and see what they think. Let's see what that 51% ends up being after everybody knows everything that's going to happen, all the scopes that are involved in this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicholas Maluchnik, 32064 Power Street. Mr. Verkest, You had mentioned that you've explored and exhausted all options. You didn't mention what those were. What were those alternatives that you explored? How much were they? Who did you speak to? Where were you talking about putting those? Where were you talking about putting the spoils? Did you explore putting the spoils at the boat launch, which is not that much further away at the end of South River? It's not that far. What was the extra cost of that? It's 2026. Amazing technology exists, okay? Maybe we can look at a different alternative other than sucking this canal. Maybe we can go back to the old school way of doing it, okay? There's a lot of people that don't want this to take place, okay? And those people that do want it to take place, it's on them. They got to pay to do it the right way, okay? You guys, I say you guys, okay, the people that wanted this dredging to take place, there was, you say 51% signatures were collected before anybody, you guys were moving forward with this project before anybody even knew that it was going on and could even oppose this project. What would it take? I honestly want to know right now, because there's a lot of people that want to oppose this project. What does it take to oppose, to successfully oppose this project? Because we've been going out collecting signatures. All right, as of today, we have 64, 65 signatures, almost as many as you guys have in favor of the dredge project. And we've done that in 2 months. What took the people that are in favor of dredging 2 years to collect. So realistically, if we're going to oppose this and we're going to successfully oppose it, I want to know what I have to do. Do I have to get more signatures? If I do, how many do I need? Give me another 2 months and I'll double those signatures. I'll triple them. It won't be a problem. Because, like my wife stated, a lot of the people that signed for this do not know the full scope of the project. They have no idea. People were going door to door collecting signatures in favor of the dredging, and it was, hey, do you want your canal dredged? Oh, sure, I'll sign for that. Not, oh, guess what? There's going to be a bunch of gravel trains up and down your street. Now we're going to trash Awney Park, and it's going to be like that for 2 years. That was never part of the discussion, okay? So I honestly want to know, how can I oppose this successfully? Nobody's ever talked about that. Also, is it too much to ask to change plans? Okay, the majority of the people here that are opposing the dredging, they're not necessarily opposing the dredging, they're opposing dumping it in Awney Park. Do the dredging, but plans change. It's okay to go back to the drawing board and say, hey, look, there's another alternative. Let's do that, okay? Maybe it costs a little bit more money, but sometimes more money isn't always, sometimes less money isn't always the best alternative for everybody, okay? Ken, you mentioned that majority vote, this is a democracy. Cool, I agree with you. 51% of people want the dredging. But what about the percentage of people who don't want it dumped in Awney Park? Okay, what about the amount of people that live in the St. Clair Haven or Huron Point subdivision? Okay, if we're going to talk about democracy and we're going to talk about they got 51%, they have 69 votes in favor of the dredging, cool. Let's talk about percentages of people that don't want it going in Awney Park, okay? Because we'll exceed that. I just want to know specifically, what is that going to take? Or are we just going to ignore all the signatures that I got? Do we ignore that? Do we ignore the 64 signatures in 2 months? That'll be 120 signatures in another 2 months. Are we just going to ignore that and pretend that that's not even real? We're going to sweep that under the rug? I'm just curious.
I just want to say I personally brought the petition to Andre. I explained everything to him. He said he didn't hear it. I don't know why. I offered everybody I talked to the information I had, all the paperwork. I emailed it to people. If they asked questions, some people just said, yes, I want it done no matter what. So those people didn't want the information. But anyone that asked, I gave it to them. So again, this isn't something new. This has been planned for a long time. Takes a lot of work. There's a lot of people that have tried before. Hasn't gone through. Again, this is overdue. I say we press forward. This needs to be done. And again, you talk about being able to play in the park. What about all the people that live on that canal? Can't use their canal, can't use their boats, can't play. We're all neighbors. We should help each other out. And again, that silt, in the canal is a safety hazard. A kid will end up drowning in there because he won't be able to get out.
Jeff Kovacek, 38886 Purdy Street. Want to address Ms. Brown, Mr. Batkins specifically. When I was in here last time, I was the one that brought up the 51% thing on that petition. You guys both questioned it, and I thank you for questioning it. You need to keep questioning this, because we brought up this 51% thing. Everybody's brought this 51% thing up today numerous times, the board, people that are coming in here. What I'm telling you is now, and Mr. Witt, you started to put it over to your attorney here to speak to that question, but Mr. Verkes cut you off when we were talking about it. I'd like to know from the attorney's perspective, what I'm telling you is that 51% doesn't matter anymore. And it mattered then, and at the time, you didn't have 51% when this meeting started at the last one. You didn't have it until you took those people off of that other canal. That's what made it the 51%. And it was even said right here at the table, roll the tape back, because they said, well, if we didn't have the 51%, we have it now because we dropped these homes off of Riverdale. So we have the 51% now, which, fine. I mean, to go backwards, I get it, and which is why I didn't push the issue too much when I had a private meeting with Mr. Witt, in the fact that they're going to get, as far as 51% goes, they do have it now. They had it at the end of that meeting, and it would push for it, and to go backwards and try to do this, starting over with the petition and stuff like that, at the time, I didn't see the sense in it because the inevitable was still going to happen. They were still going to get their 51%. The project's going to move forward. So to delay it, it doesn't really interest me. And let me just back up for a second and say, I'm not opposed to dredging this canal. It's the way we're doing it. There's a lot of missing elements, a lot of missing information that, again, I pointed out in my protest letter that I'm not going to go over again because it's just too much information. But back to my point when I just started here. The 51% doesn't matter anymore. It's 50% of total land area. Mr. Verkest, you gave an example here a few seconds ago when we were talking about the road stuff. You said, yeah, just like with this, it's 51%. Yeah, with a road, it is 51% because that's under item C, which is the construction, improvement, and maintenance of public roads, okay? We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about dredging, which is under item N, when you're going through the, I guess, the protocol of how this is set up with an SAD. N is the construction, improvement, and maintenance of a lake, pond, river, stream, lagoon, or other body of water, of an improvement of the body of water. This subdivision includes, but is not limited to, dredging, okay? That's what we're talking about. That has to be done in the manner that it's done with 50% of the total land area. That's not what you've given us residents to move this forward. You didn't give us proof of 50% of the total land area. And again, when you add this park in, that's a huge piece of land area that we're talking about, that becomes part of this and should be looked at. And again, I agree with a lot of people what they've said here today. Get the information out there. If nothing else, I think it's owed to the residents of the community to at least know thoroughly what's going on. You know, Pete came up here a second ago and mentioned that he told a certain person, he gave him all the information. I believe that. I know Pete, I know Chris, I know these guys that went around and petitioned. I don't think they tried to, hoodwink somebody for a lack of better terms. But the bottom line is there's a lot of people that don't have this information in front of them that are directly part of this community. Again, read into this, I would ask you, please, read into, it is MCL.
1.723.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Check it out. You tell me, Mr. Attorney. I mean, I've already sought out legal advice on this. I'm not an attorney, but I've gotten some people involved with this and asked the questions, and I'm prepared to go to Michigan Tax Tribunal, and that's where this is headed. Mr. Witt told me, and this is an interesting little side note, that he's never been in front of Michigan Tribunal on any of the SADs in this city. Well, you're about to be, because you guys are doing stuff wrong as far as following procedure and protocol to this. We're going to Michigan Tax Tribunal, and I think I got a pretty good shot of getting at least my portion of it overturned, because I'm not going to pay I'm looking at $20,000 for this project. It's obscene, in my opinion. And again, I'm not somebody that opposes the dredging. I'd like to see the dredging, but it's got to be done the right way. And there's a lot of reasons that I put in here that, that say otherwise. That's all I have. Thank you.
Dave Rimmer, 391160 East Archer. I guess I qualify as one of the old farts here. The original dredging was late 50s, early 60s. I know because I got a driver's license then. When it was dredged then, was tons of vacant lots. Everybody was thrilled to death to get dirt. And then it was just dirt, it wasn't something else. Kind of ironic, people complained the most afterwards because they were still hitting bottom the following year because we were on a down cycle. So anyway, were vacant lots besides Awney Park going to be used for the dredging? I know in some of the earlier talks, they were looking at vacant lots along the property area to use for the dredging. Thank you.
C. William Bardell, 29-year resident, clean cut, do-gooder boy next door, clean up, fix up, people helping people. I just want to remind everybody to check out Save Lake St. Clair on Facebook. There's a little bit of reading material for you, and stay up to date on everything that's going on. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the floor for public comment and move back to board comment. I did write some notes. Someone had said, was everyone informed of where spoils would go? We don't circulate the petitions, so it is truly a grassroots effort. So I can't say to you who said what to whom when they signed petitions, if they were honest, if they were dishonest. I'm not in that position. It is driven by citizens. It certainly would make no sense for the Board of Trustees to go into your neighborhood and circulate a petition telling you what you should do in your neighborhood. So I can't tell you what was said to Andre or anyone else as far as that goes. I don't know if you have anything to add to that. Someone had mentioned that they had an addition on their home. It required a variance, and there was a notification process. Again, because there are different laws that dictate how things are done. When certain things are done relative, say, to a variance, to rezoning, those kinds of things, the state has requirements. We have ordinance that define how we do those things. Specific to an SAD, the notification process does involve the newspaper, and that's the general. And every meeting we have here is streamed live. The agendas are online in advance of the meeting, so nothing is done under, we can't go in the back room and have a meeting, except there's very, very narrow circumstances. But the notification process for an SAD are the people who are in that district, who are affected by that financially. So that's the notification process. When there's a variance, typically depending on what that is, and I don't know what it is, but sometimes it's a 200, 300-foot radius, and basically pick it out on GIS and make a mailing list and mail that out. Did we explore all options? Did we explore the boat launch? What sites were evaluated and what were the costs? I don't have all those answers. That's a lot of information. What we did do is we worked with the residents who wanted this. We probably at this point have talked to at least 3 different contractors, and each time having various discussions about where to put the spoils. The current contractor had indicated their first choice was Lake St. Clair Metro Park. I was a part of that conversation because I felt like as another public official talking to a public body, it would be probably an easier conversation than asking just a resident to cold call someone that I already have a relationship with. So I got an answer there. I know there were other sites that were identified that were private. I was not a part of that, and the boat launch was not one of the sites that the contractor identified as a viable site for moving the spoils. So that's what I can tell you. As far as a cost, I don't know that there was a cost given if the bags were to be placed in the marina at Lake St. Clair Metro Park. It was, where can we put this? What volume of material? The original contractor that had identified vacant lots clearly had a different volume, because the volumes that we're talking about, and
And a much different process than this individual as well.
different volume, different process, and ultimately backed out because I think they had concerns that they may have miscalculated. I can't say that. I can't speak for that contractor. What does it take to oppose the project? I don't know. I'm not in that. If you wish to oppose, you can do that. I don't know. I'm not sure of. And there was a question asked. If I somehow stopped you from speaking, Mr. Huth, I apologize. I've gone through several SADs. So the most common SAD is a road SAD, whereby if you're on that road and you're opposed to it, you don't sign the petition. If you want the road repaved, you do sign the petition. But once the project goes through, once we reach a majority, generally speaking, whether you signed it or not, you want the best road possible. If you're going to be forced to pay for it, you want the road. This one is unique because it appears that a majority, from what I can tell, and it's just anecdotal, a majority of opposition is coming from people who are not a part of this. I think one resident said they collected as many no signatures in 2 months as it took to collect 2 years. I don't know if it took them to collect 2 years, but I can tell you it's a whole lot easier to sign a petition saying don't do something than it is to sign a petition saying I agree to spend 10 grand. It's just not apples to apples. But regardless, I don't know that I'm in a position to tell someone how to oppose this. I don't know what legal process. You may want to talk to an attorney and ask them. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that answer. I don't know because I've never been in that role.
People want to know what they have to do to successfully oppose this, Mr. Verpass.
Yep, so we're not going to engage in a back and forth. We're not going to engage in a back and forth. You can call me anytime, you can meet me anytime. I've met you at your home.
Is the answer going to change?
My answer to you is I don't know. So I'm going to look to the attorney, but my point is that I don't know that we're in a position where we take a group of residents and say, here's what you can do to succeed with something, get them going, and then say to another group of people, here's what you can do to stop this legal process. That's not the role that we're in. But hang on, I'm not going to give you anything if you keep talking. But I will turn to the attorney and ask him if he has some advice that I'm not aware of.
So is a question to me, what advice I would give if I was retained to shut down a project that the townships move forward on? I really don't feel comfortable in that role. We're allowed to speak, township attorneys are allowed to speak to our clients in closed session because we can evaluate issues that have, from both sides without tipping our hand to the rest of the world what their legal options are. I just can't. I've heard somebody say they're going to bring a case against the Michigan Tribunal. I mean, am I supposed to say what I think the best points to be making there? I don't feel comfortable doing that. I represent the board. The board's moving forward with the project. I would speak up and say if I saw something that was a step that had been missed. As you know, the best way to oppose a project is at one of the 2 public hearings that you are given an opportunity to have. This board, frankly, gives more latitude to public comment than any other. Our firm probably represents 40 municipalities. I can't think of another one that lets people get up twice on the same topic. So they very much allow everyone to speak here. That's the way things are opposed. So I'm just comfortable leaving it at that.
Yeah, so there may be methods, but it would be like going to the prosecutor and saying, how should I defend this case? We're moving forward with something. You're welcome to take an approach. Someone had said, do we ignore petitions? No, we don't ignore petitions. I understand that we hear them, but that doesn't, a petition is not, there was already a petition process, and that's a process in favor of this project. There isn't a petition process to oppose this for people who are outside of the SAD. So I don't know what methods you can take, and I'm not engaging. Again, I'm not engaging. Is there any? I was told that I stifled you from giving an attorney's opinion on the process, so I don't know what I stopped you from saying.
No, I think the only question was what statute applied or something along those lines, and we moved past that issue, so.
Okay.
I have nothing left.
And prior to this item, I have reviewed past dredgings before, and they're all done on a frontage basis.
And so then, the last question was asked, will vacant lots besides Awney Park, are they going to be used? Unless it's for, I guess for lack of a better word, plumbing, or for, the pipes that it takes to move this material. As far as I'm aware, none of the vacant lots are gonna have bags on them, I guess is probably the question that the individual is saying. I'm not aware of that.
There's one lot where they're looking to host the pipes, but that's it at this
Right.
point.
And again, not knowing this particular, every detail, the contractor that does this, and based on another project that they had done near the township park, at the south end of the township, sometimes there are booster pumps involved, and can push the material only so far. There's a place where they mix in a polymer that binds the materials to minimize the amount of, I guess, anything other than water from coming out of the bags. So that, some of that is done on land. I don't know exactly where they're doing that, but clearly you can't trespass. You have to have some agreement with the property owner to be able to utilize that land. So those were the notes I had, and I did the best I could to answer the questions. I know there's folks that might not like the answers. I'm sorry. Any other board comment?
So just to double back, Mr. Witt, you said that that whoever the contractor is had talked to private landowners that.
No, not the contractor. The residents that were circulating the petitions reached out to different private landholder owners about their thing, just like when they went through this process or with the previous scope of work. They were the ones that gathered signatures from residents that were possibly willing to host bags on their lot and that kind of stuff. So that's.
So that, we've been down that road is what you're saying? Because when you look at, I mean, I've been looking at the map here, and there is a couple vacant lots.
Yeah. And
I
so-
just didn't know if consideration was given to those people that own those lots to.
And that's what they were doing.
Subsidize.
They were given, when they were doing it, hosting bags on lots, wouldn't be invoicing for that parcel, if it had been hosted there. But with this current contractor and the way he does his work, he said that wasn't something that he would be willing to do. Disconnecting the pumps and resettling everything, would, in his professional opinion, drive the cost up significantly.
I was thinking more of a vacant lot that could hold those bags.
There isn't another vacant lot
There's not a lot.
in that neighborhood that could host those. And that's why, even Awney is the biggest, biggest parcel of land out there that doesn't have a home on it, and they have to break it into two.
And we did also look at what some might consider to be a park at Riverdale, and that's not a park, it's all road right-of-way, so that would be a different process.
So were there any other places where the spoils could go? That we take the money aside?
Yep.
You can't take the money aside, because unlimited budget, you can do whatever.
No, I'm saying for now, for right now. Are there other
So the significant locations that the contractor identified were really at the corner of Venetian. If you think of between Venetian and the S curves on the south side of South River Road, Lake St. Clair Metro Park, and Awney Park.
So here's my question, and I don't know if we can do this, but we've got an SAD, we've got 51%. Some people are saying we don't, but I think we do. We are getting opposition because of the park, because of where the spoils are going to go. They don't want those spoils in the park. I don't think I'm alone on the board. I think that a lot of us feel like we don't really want it in the park if we don't have to do it. We have identified that there's other places where it can go. It's going to cost more. Can we, I don't know if billing is the right word. Could we charge back that additional? So if we have a cost now, let's say it's 1.3 million, and if we move this to a different location and now it's going to cost 1.6 million, can can we ask, or not ask, but bill back the other $300,000 to all the people that say that they should be included, right? Because they all stood up here and said this. We should be included. We don't care. We want the dredging done, but, we should have it done correctly, and we should be included in this. We're affected. So can we charge them back the additional $300,000 divided over lots? And because they're getting signatures, and because they're getting signatures to oppose this, now, do we go back now and say, okay, we have signatures that say they'll pay for it.
Mhm.
They'll pay the extra money.
Yep, so a couple of thoughts on
So in
that.
other words, put up or shut up.
No, I hear you, I
So-
understand, yeah, no, I got you. So a couple of things. One is, we don't have an alternative site.
Okay.
Lake St. Clair Metro Park didn't say, if you give us $10 million, we'll let you do it.
Okay.
They said no, period. They have construction, they're not interested. I didn't speak to the private landowner, but the folks that are involved understand that, and again, this is, prior to this is kind of a public-private partnership. You've got residents who are
Yep.
motivated, they're the neighbors. You presume that they know their neighbors, they're gonna go door to door, they're gonna talk to them, they have some idea of whether people want this or not. If I'm in that neighborhood and I'm supportive of this and I'm circulating petitions, I want the lowest cost possible.
Right.
So,
And they'll still get that.
right, so we were told, they spoke to the property owner, and the property owner was unwilling. The contractor did not identify the DNR site. At this point, there isn't another place where I could say the only alternative that I can imagine that would be at some additional cost would be if it were done by a barge or by some other means that didn't involve putting something on land. And my understanding is that the volume of this, the size, the fact that it's in two phases, if you look at the size of Awney Park and you
Yeah.
look at the size of a barge, you can understand that really starts to change the scale. Second of all, if you're gonna assess someone, they have to have a benefit. So I would have a hard time, let's just say that Mr. Smith lives across the street from Awney Park. They utilize Awney Park, but they're not a part of this assessment. If their canal isn't getting improved, they're not getting any benefit, I don't think we could assess them for a cost. So I understand the logic and the approach, it's creative, you're trying to think of, hey, how can we get this done? When all is said and done, I don't know of an alternative site, regardless of cost at this point, and I don't believe we could say you have to pay to not have it at the park.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Pay to not have it at the park.
Right, right.
Everybody doesn't want it at the park, but no one's offering to pay for it.
Yeah, no, understood. So, that's answered that question, I guess. Is there other questions, board comments? Hearing none, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a motion by Mr. Badkins, support by Mr. Tominello. Discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries, meeting adjourned. Thank you, board.